morning and welcome to ONNJ Live. I'm Ken Rosato. Voters in South Jersey's 2nd Congressional District will get a chance to see the Democratic contenders side by side tonight. The William J. Hughes Center for Public Policy at Stockton University and the Press of Atlantic City are teaming up to host a debate between the four candidates seeking the Democratic nomination for U.S. House. And you could see the debate live tonight, 6 p.m., right here on ONNJ. All four candidates who qualified by meeting the campaign finance reporting threshold will participate. Tim Alexander, a Galloway resident, is a civil rights attorney and retired detective captain with the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. He's making his third run for the seat, focusing on economic justice, government accountability, and systemic reform. Zach Mullock is the two-term mayor of Cape May. He brings local government experience to the race, emphasizing coastal resilience, small business support, and practical solutions for shore communities facing climate and economic challenges. Terry Reese, a lifelong Atlantic County resident and former retail manager, is a caregiver running as a progressive voice. Her platform prioritizes affordable health care, a living wage, housing costs, and support for working families. And Bailey Winder, a fourth generation New Jerseyan and former USAID and State Department official, highlights national security experience. He's pushing for lower costs, ethics reform, and protecting the environment while cracking down on corporate influence. Voters will choose the Democratic nominee in the June 2nd primary. Alyssa Maurice, Assistant Director of the Hughes Center, and a representative from the Press of Atlantic City will moderate. The forum will take place at Stockton University's Campus Center event room in Galloway, and organizers are also accepting suggested questions from the public in advance. Now, on the Republican side, incumbent Congressman Jeff Van Drew is running unopposed in the primary. A reminder for voters, the deadline to register has passed, but early voting runs from May 26th through May 31st, ahead of the June 2nd primary election. Joining us live is the moderator, Alyssa Maurice, Assistant Director and Head of Research and Polling at the Hughes Center. Alyssa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Good to have you on. And Alyssa, this is the first big debate, of course, of the Democratic primary in the 2nd District. So what can viewers expect tonight?
Well, I think the goal of any primary debate really is that the candidates try to differentiate themselves from each other. And so we're going to see them try to point out those differences. We're going to see them embrace their specific angle in this race. We know that Bailey Winder's lane has really been he's really leaned into the data centers, the fight against those, particularly in Vineland. We know that Terry Reese has more of an activist perspective, so she's really taken that lane. She has criticized Bailey Winder for being what she calls a Washington insider, so we'll probably see her lean into that she is one of the voters. And we know that Tim Alexander, he has stressed that he has the name recognition. As you mentioned, he has run for this race before. And so he has really positioned himself as someone who has a chance to win, given that he already has that name recognition in the district. And then lastly, we have Zach Mullock, who is a current Cape May mayor. He has really leaned on his experience as a local official. And so we'll probably see them embrace their specific lane in this race and try to make the case for themselves.
You know, the interesting thing, Alyssa, is Pulte Homes and NVIDIA are doing these mini data centers in all the new homes that they're building. So you won't need like one of these ginormous data centers. And I know it's become such a hot topic, but if that works out, it looks like the data center topic may be something that we don't even have to talk about in the next year. We'll see if that works out. They're trying it now with thousands of homes around the country where basically, I don't know if you've seen this, they would have something the size of like an HVAC unit on the property of any house that they build, and that'll be hooked into fiber optics, and the data center will not be one place, but it'll be distributed through thousands upon thousands of houses, so it won't draw down the electricity in a community and be an eyesore or anything like that. So we'll see if that ends up the case, and that'll be one less thing to worry about. Now, you and a representative from the press. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think just on that issue, I think that's really been a local fight. We've seen that in town halls. We've seen it crop up locally, and of course, towns are passing local ordinances to ban those. I think the larger theme, really, that especially Bailey Winder is tapping into, is this fight against corporate profits over people. He's sort of taken that angle. This populist movement that people should not be paying the price for corporate expansion. And so I think that's sort of the larger theme. And of course, that's a bit more relevant to the congressional race at the federal level.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's also that element of NIMBYism. People don't want necessarily all that in their backyard, and the fact that their taxes are going to that 100%. You can understand, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that's why he's bringing the point up, and the point is being brought up. This is certainly a hot issue right now. Now, you and a representative from the press will be moderating. How did you decide on all the topics?
Well, we took question submissions in advance from members of the public. They could either email the Press of Atlantic City or us here at the Hughes Center. And so we got a handful of questions and we tried to pull themes from that. And, many of the questions are pretty evergreen, right? Affordability is always top of mind for voters. That's something that doesn't change much from cycle to cycle, especially in a place like New Jersey, where people are grappling with high costs. And so some of those issues we really sort of knew well before we heard from the public that they were going to be hot topics. We know utility bills have been top of mind for voters here in New Jersey, and these questions around energy policy are really loom large. So that will certainly be something we need to touch on. But there are just so many aspects of affordability that people want to hear about: housing costs, groceries, healthcare. Those costs have skyrocketed, and so affordability will certainly take the lead.
And the debate, of course, open to the public. It'll be live streamed. Why is this format so important to this, or at this cycle, at this time?
Yeah, part of the Hughes Center mission is to provide a forum for civil discourse around important policy issues that impact New Jerseyans. And so, election debates are a huge part of that. We want to give voters the opportunity to engage in the democratic process, to hear directly from the candidates, to hear the differences, and so that they can make an informed choice at the polls. And we feel that that's our responsibility to the community. We try to make it as accessible as possible. So thank you for airing that live on your channels as well, because we think it's so important to get this out there in as many ways as we can. So that it's convenient for voters. They have very busy lives. It is hard to stay engaged in the democratic process, but if we can make it easy on them, it's certainly important.
Will there be any surprises that voters and viewers may see tonight?
We'll see. I think we have been lucky in the past with many of our debates. They're always very civil, respectful. So I don't think we anticipate any curveballs, but we'll see what the candidates have in store, and if they want to make any direct claims at each other. We'll see how the back and forth goes. But for the most part, they've always been very civil and respectful, which I think the voters appreciate at this time.
Well, we touched on some of the issues that are impacting voters in the second district right now. Is there a 1 through 5 top of mind that you could mention, you think?
I think really affordability at every angle of it is going to be the biggest issue. I know the candidates will also, I'm sure, make the case for the Democratic Party as a whole ahead of these midterm elections. The party is really hoping for a blue wave and as a backlash to Trump, and we did see some evidence of that here in New Jersey last fall with Cheryl's election. She really overperformed in many expectations. And she did well, particularly here in South Jersey in District 2. She flipped 3 of the counties in this district. And so Democrats are really looking to build on that momentum. I think these candidates will make the case for the party as a whole to try to, help the Democratic Party going into these midterms so that they can achieve those goals.
So, Alyssa, walk us through the debate format. How is it going to begin, and what's the structure for tonight?
So the candidates will have 1 minute for opening statements to start us off. And then we will have some questions that will be posed by myself and Nicholas Huba at the Press of Atlantic City, the news editor there. And we also have a Stockton student who's going to ask a few questions sprinkled in. So we have a guest moderator to jump in. And the candidates do also get closing statements as well. They'll have a minute. For the questions throughout the debate, they do have a minute to respond to questions, and they have 30 seconds for rebuttals. So if anyone is named directly in a candidate's response, they will get the chance to address that and get a 30-second rebuttal.
Will there be candidate to candidate interaction, and will you have any lightning round kind of questions?
Yeah, there could be interactions between the candidates. It's really up to them if they want to engage with each other. If they mention each other by name, then they do get the chance to respond, and we'll have that back and forth going, where they can lob rebuttals back and forth to each other. We do, it's only an hour, and we want to get to as many, excuse me, issues as we possibly can. And so, if those back and forths go on a bit too long, we may have to cut it off at our discretion, just because we want to make sure the voters hear about all the issues they care about. And an hour goes by very quickly. But they can certainly engage with each other as much as they want. And we'll see, maybe we will have to have a lightning round because, if we start to run out of time and we still have topics to get to, I may have to adjust and turn those questions into shorter, yes, no responses to try to get through them. Because my main priority is really making sure the voters hear about all of the issues they care about in our short time together.
We will be watching. Alyssa Maurice, Assistant Director at the William J. Hughes Center. Thanks for the preview. We'll be checking you out tonight.
Thank you.
You bet. Again, tonight at 6 p.m. at Stockton University's Campus Center. Come in person if you can, or watch the debate live here on ONNJ. This is your chance to hear from the people who want to represent you in Congress. We will be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to ONNJ Live. I'm Ken Rosato. Tonight, South Jersey voters will get their first look at the 4 Democrats hoping to take on Congressman Jeff Van Drew, the Republican. The debate is being co-hosted by Stockton University's Hughes Center for Public Policy and the Press of Atlantic City. This evening in Galloway, 4 Democrats will square off in the only major debate of the 2nd Congressional District primary. With just 2 weeks until the June 2nd election, how should candidates prepare? And what really matters once the lights go on? Joining us now is Brendan Gill, Essex County Commissioner, and Rosemary Becky, former Republican nominee for New Jersey's 11th District and founder of Jersey First. Brendan and Rosemary, welcome. Good to have you on.
Thank you for
Great to
having
be
me.
here.
And you've both stood on the debate stage as candidates. What was your biggest aha moment, if you will, the first time you debated? Start with Rosemary, please.
I think the biggest aha moment is really making sure that you're being direct, answering the questions, being thorough, being specific, and really making sure that you're being conversational, not trying to be too canned. Those are kind of some of the things that were definitely the aha moments for me.
And Brendan, how about yourself?
I agree with Rosemary. I mean, I think the big aha moment for me was the amount of time you have to answer a question. You prepare so much for these debates, right? But you have a limited amount of time to get your message across, a limited amount of time, quite frankly, to articulate sometimes answers to very complex questions. So until you're up there on the stage doing that, I don't think you really appreciate the challenge sometimes in doing that and able to deliver a message quickly, coherently, and concisely. With the time constraints that most debates put on you as a candidate.
Origins of the Pythagorean theorem, 10 seconds, go. And that's really what it is. I mean, having been a debater and having been an interviewer, I'm with you. You have so much you want to say, but you have to summarize it in just a few sentences. So let's ask you both, how do candidates actually prepare for a debate like the one tonight at Stockton? Walk us through what a serious candidate should be doing in the day or two before the debate actually occurs.
So to me, it's a good old fashioned what people describe as calling it a murder board, right? So you practice having someone ask you questions and practice making sure that you're able to answer it. And for these candidates, they've got to be fluent in both local issues as well as national issues. So there's a lot of prep that goes into this.
Yeah. And how about for yourself, Brendan?
I think you have to do a few things, right? Absolutely, practice is important. Preparation in terms of what do you want to talk about, right? So, probably some of the best debate advice I ever received is, make sure no matter what the question is that you come back to what you want to deliver in terms of a message. Or another way of saying, don't answer the question sometimes, no matter what the question is. In terms of serious preparation, it requires obviously knowledge of the issues. It requires debate practice with people sparring against you, just like a prize fighter would, so to speak. So you're coming in there based on whatever the parameters of that debate are, whether it's a one-on-one, whether it's multiple candidates, how many different questions you're going to receive. So you're familiar with all that, going in. And actually, it's normally more than a couple-day process, right? This is a process where really 5-6 weeks out on a campaign, you start to prepare for the debates that you have. So both as I've done this both as a candidate and as a campaign manager. And so that process itself, you want to give some time because every candidate is different. Every person is different in how they prepare. But there are some fundamental things you want to make sure that you get to and that you have enough time to deal with. And practice is the most important thing that you can do before any debate. And you want to practice as much as possible.
Divert. I love that you pointed that out. As having been a moderator, it's so frustrating. You ask a candidate, why do you beat your cat? And then the candidate comes back and says, animals are lovely, and I happen to love animals. But the reason why I'm running for office is I want to lower taxes. And people watching at home think that's a lovely thought. Meanwhile, as the interviewer, I'm thinking, answer my question. And so you'll hear the interviewer ask that question 100 ways from Sunday. And a great candidate knows how to take that, sound like they're answering, and get the point that they want to get across, right?
No, there's no question about it. I mean, message delivery is a big part of this. And the rules of these debates, right? You have different objectives sometimes in a political campaign with these debates, right? Where you are in the race very much might influence your strategy of how you approach the debate. If you're a candidate who's in the lead, you may go into a debate with the idea that I just don't want to make any mistakes, right? I don't want to create any new news. Sorry, Ken, but I don't want to make any new news, right? During this debate, I'm not going to get sucked into something I don't want to get sucked in. Or maybe you're behind in this in a campaign, and you want to push the envelope a little bit, so you may want to bring up things or introduce ideas or issues that haven't been brought up in this debate. So all those things actually go into the debate strategy that the candidate is bringing, when he approaches an event like this.
Absolutely. And at least on a streaming platform like On New Jersey, not to toot the horn here, but we give you 60 or 90 minutes in these debates. When I worked at Channel 7, and not to single them out because this is at all the broadcast channels, they give you like 30 minutes. You got 12 debaters on stage. What could you possibly get from them, in 30 minutes? So let me ask Rosemary, what is the most important thing that a candidate has to get across in a 60-minute debate when you got 4 people on the stage? How do you cut through all the noise and make your message stand out?
It's really important that the candidate be themselves, that make sure that they get their primary message out there. Particularly when you've got a crowded field, right? So you want people to see you as confident, as a subject matter expert, addressing the issues, being on top of things. So and again, as you pointed out, when it's a short, limited period of time, you want to be quick and make sure that you're concise and you're,
We got a little freeze in the video.
Really letting the voters see who you are.
Okay, we had a little glitch in the video, but I think we got the gist of it there, Rosemary. And then Brendan, same question. How do you stand out among the 4 when you have that limited amount of time?
I think really you have to decide which issues you want to stress, and then you have to do something that connects you to that issue. Like, what is the takeaway? So in terms of every question that you're answering on a debate stage, you want the takeaway to, again, probably come back to the main theme of whatever your campaign is, whatever you think that is, and what in order to win the race that you're in. So again, as I said before, sometimes that can be, again, not trying to separate yourself that much, potentially based on where you are in the race, or sometimes that can mean trying to separate yourself quite a bit. But ultimately what you want to do is you want the people that are tuning in, not only to the debate itself when it's actually happening, but people who will tune in later, because oftentimes, right, these debates are not just about what's happening in real time. They're about the clips that are going to come out of the debate. They're about the social media that's going to come out of the debate, right? So in terms of your approach to that, you're also thinking about those things when answering these questions, and distinguishing yourself, tying yourself to your main message, and making sure that there's a takeaway for the people that tune in or utilize the debate as a tool to inform themselves about the race.
When you have all these multi-candidate debates like this, things get really heated, right? And especially if you have maybe 2 people ganging up on a specific candidate quietly, they may be in cahoots. What is the smartest way to respond when you are attacked? And when is it better to ignore and pivot? Rosemary. Of course, perfect timing. We lose Rosemary's signal. Let's go to Brendan on that. Rosemary, we'll work on your signal. Go ahead, Brendan.
So Ken, I come from the political school that no attack should be left unresponded to. So, if you are attacked during a debate, I think it's critically important that you respond in some form, and not to ignore it. Again, I'm going to go back to, though, that response itself can be a variety of things. It can be a response to the specific attack, or the response could be just, quite frankly, going back to your core message of the campaign itself. The situation really dictates that. And I think that's also important to acknowledge in debates, because you prepare as much as possible, to the extent that you can, but you're going to have to make some real-time decisions, right, during the course of that debate about what you want to do and how you want to do it, based on the flow of the conversation, based on how the candidates are interacting with you. But I generally come from the school that if you are attacked, it's important to respond, and that no attack should go unanswered.
Yeah. And Rosemary, we just talked about that. What happens when you are attacked in a debate? When is it better to ignore and pivot, or should you always respond? All right.
I think it depends on the situation and tactic that you ignore things like that. But if it's, talking about the issues specifically, I think you have to address them. And I think you have to make sure, again, that you have a concise, specific answer.
Yeah. We're having some glitching issues with Rosemary's signal. We'll try to get that fixed up. A lot of people forget that when Trump was
To the
running,
question.
there we go. We got the last second there of you, Rosemary. We're having some glitching issues. When Trump ran in the primary for president second time out, remember he had six other people on the debate stage. Remember the first debate? It
Yep.
was literally six candidates teaming up on Trump, and you could tell their only goal was to try to knock him down. And yet he was in the middle. And I don't know if it was the visual of him being in the middle and being the former president at that time, but he was the
Sure.
last man standing. And of course, we know what happens. Of course, he ends up hiring most of those people on his cabinet. They all ended up
Right.
working for him later. Back to New Jersey, South Jersey voters, of course, focus now on affordability, healthcare,
Yeah.
coastal issues. These are all things that matter to New Jersey
Yeah.
specifically. How important is it to tell, say, a personal story versus sticking strictly to policy?
Personal stories are critically important right now in Democratic primaries. You're seeing that across the country in many primaries that have taken place, not only here in New Jersey. I just personally participated in a primary in New Jersey, Congressional District 11. I was not successful. That's why I'm on the show here with you today. But the ultimately the personal story is critically important. Voters more and more are making a connection to the individual, and then how they associate that individual with the issues that they care about. And if you see, even in this race in Congressional District 2, each of the four candidates in the Democratic primary are highlighting their personal story and what they bring to the table as candidates through that personal story, and then relating that to the issues. They're all talking about the issues. I mean, all four Democratic candidates are talking about the issue of affordability. Ken, they're talking about the issue of healthcare. They're talking about, of course, what they would do to stand up to Donald Trump, but they're also talking about that in the context of their personal experiences. We have a mayor in this race. We have a former State Department official in this race. We have a former prosecutor in this race, and they highlight those. We have a former, what I'm going to say, more of a citizen-based candidate, first-time candidate in this race, who are all using their both personal past experiences as ways to kind of differentiate themselves, in a crowded primary field.
Hey, Brendan, I knew the late, great Governor Mario Cuomo, and I remember him talking about this very topic. I know that you were unsuccessful in that 11th race. What Mario Cuomo said was sometimes it's just not the time, and sometimes it's not the right office. And if you
Yeah,
recall, he ran for mayor of New York City multiple times and got
that's
trounced
right.
each time. Then he runs for governor and he wins multiple times. So you never
That's
know. Could just be a different office that's out there calling your name. And then we'll have you on talking about it in success, right? There you go.
I appreciate
Well,
that.
Brendan Gill, unfortunately, we lost Rosemary. Her signal went out. But Brendan Gill, Essex County Commissioner, and Rosemary Becky, who was with us, former Republican nominee for New Jersey's 11th District, founder of New Jersey First. Thank you for joining us. Great to have you on. All the best to you.
Ken, thank you so much for having me. Take care.
You bet. And the debate for the 2nd District congressional primary starts tonight, 6 p.m. at Stockton University's Campus Center. You can go in person if you'd like. Just make sure you get there plenty early and bring ID and nothing else. Just bring yourself ID and don't bring anything that won't get you through a metal detector. Remember that. Come in person, or if you'd like to watch from the comfort of your home or your phone, you could stream it live at onnj.com. onnj.com. Again, this is something you should not miss. A democracy or a democratic republic as we have, it's only good if you participate. So take part in this tonight. You're going to want to check this out. Again, it's 6 p.m. We'll be streaming it live here at onnj.com, Stockton University's Campus Center. Come in person or watch the debate live at onnj.com. I'm Ken Rosato. Thank you so much for watching ONNJ Live. We'll see you tonight, 6 p.m. Don't miss it.